ഗാന്ധിജിയുടെ ജീവിതാന്ത്യത്തിലെ 4 വർഷങ്ങളിൽ നേരിടേണ്ടി വന്നതുപോലെ വെറുപ്പിന്റെയും വിഭാഗീയതയുടെയും അന്തരീക്ഷത്തിലേക്ക് രാജ്യം നീങ്ങിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണെന്നും അതു തടയാൻ ഗാന്ധിജിയുടെ രക്തസാക്ഷിത്വം അന്ന് സംഭവിച്ചുവെങ്കിൽ ഇന്ന് ഒരു പ്രത്യാശയുമില്ലാത്ത ഭയപ്പെടുത്തുന്ന സ്ഥിതിവിശേഷങ്ങളിലേക്ക് രാജ്യം പോകുന്നതെന്നും ഗാന്ധിജിയുടെ പ്രപൗത്രൻ തുഷാർഗാന്ധി അഭിപ്രായപ്പെട്ടു. അന്നൂർ സഞ്ജയൻ സ്മാരക ഗ്രന്ഥാലയത്തിൽ ഗാന്ധി സ്മൃതി സദസ്സിൽ മുഖ്യ പ്രഭാഷണം നടത്തുകയായിരുന്നു തുഷാർഗാന്ധി.
I have also been asked to talk about the life of Mahatma. I think there are better qualified people to speak about the life of Mahatma. For me, what is important is the end of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the last few years of his life. They are important because when I live 75 years later in the India that he helped liberate, I realize how history is repeating itself in India today. How the last 4 years of Bapu's life, one can see similar happenings taking place in present day India. And I think that is where it is very important to remind our society of the danger that we faced then and the danger that we face today. 75 years ago, we had a Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to bring us back from insanity to sanity, to stop us from destroying ourselves and the nation from the scourge of hatred. Because even then, from 46 to 48, India was plunged into a series or an epidemic of hate. And we saw terrible results of that hatred. Today people like to comment on that history, that terrible part of our history, as if it was a cricket match. And they'll come and tell you, Muslims massacred so many Hindus. Somebody else will come and say, Hindus massacred so many Muslims. Yes, we became insane and we killed each other. But in the eventuality, the people who were killed were human beings. It was not important whether they were Hindus or they were Muslims. Human beings had to pay the price of our hatred. And at that time, there was a Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi in our midst who reminded us that we were not, God did not make us into Hindus or Muslims. He made us as human beings. And we must learn to live that way. And he sacrificed his life so that we would come back to sanity, regain our sanity. Unfortunately, today we have a Prime Minister who is very inspired by Gandhi, by the 3 monkeys of Gandhi. While he is surrounded by evil, he pretends to close his eyes and not see the evil around him. While there are screams and pleas for justice, he shuts his ears and doesn't hear those appeals for justice and mercy. And while everybody around him loudly shouts out hateful speeches and campaigns about hate, he shuts his mouth and sits quietly. We must give him credit that at least in one thing he is true to Gandhi. The 3 monkeys that were Gandhi's favorite. And fortunately for us, all the 3 have combined into our Prime Minister. This is not a matter for laughing. This is our tragedy. This is the misfortune of our nation. I started by saying that the last 4 years of Bapu's life are repeating themselves today. And so I would like to qualify that statement. Why do I think that way? Let's start from 46. He was released in 44 from Aga Khan Palace. But the tragedy of independence started in 46, with the Muslim League declaring that they would observe Direct Action Day. And because their government was in West Bengal, and the government supported by the Hindu Mahasabha, remember that, they were coalition partners, declared Direct Action Day in Kolkata for the demand of Pakistan. And Muslims rose up to the call of direct action, and there was a massacre. Then the Hindu Mahasabha got into the act, and the Hindus rose up, and there was a massacre of Muslims. Human beings were killed. Remember this. We cannot celebrate, if we are Hindus, we cannot celebrate that Muslims were massacred. And if we are Muslims, we should not celebrate that the Hindus were massacred. Human beings were killed, human beings were massacred.
വെറുപ്പിന്റെ ശക്തികൾ വിഭജനത്തിന്റെ പേരിൽ ഗാന്ധിജിയെ കുറ്റപ്പെടുത്തുന്നുവെങ്കിലും കപട ദേശഭക്തരായ ആളുകൾ വിഭജനത്തെ തടയാൻ യാതൊന്നും ചെയ്യില്ല എന്നാണ് യാഥാർത്ഥ്യം. വിഭജിച്ച് ഭരിക്കുക എന്നതാണ് ഭരണാധികാരികൾ അന്നും ഇന്നും പിന്തുടരുന്ന നയം. ഗാന്ധിജി സ്വാധീനിച്ചു എന്ന് അവകാശപ്പെടുന്ന പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ ഗാന്ധിജിയെ അപമാനിക്കുന്ന നയങ്ങളാണ് പിന്തുടരുന്നത്. ഗോഡ്സെ ഗാന്ധിജിക്ക് നൽകിയ മരണം ഒരു കണക്കിന് ഗാന്ധിജിക്ക് അനുഗ്രഹമായി മാറി എന്ന് പറയാം. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിരവധി തവണ അദ്ദേഹം ഇഞ്ചിഞ്ചായി മരിക്കുമായിരുന്നുവെന്നും തുഷാർഗാന്ധി അഭിപ്രായപ്പെട്ടു.
The man who strove for independence for his country his whole life, when the time came near to independence, could not recognize the country that was coming to birth at that time. His heart was completely broken at that time. And yet, he continued to work. He continued to go to Delhi and help in the negotiations with the British colonial power. And that is why today the forces of hate have the opportunity to blame him for everything that happened at that time, for the partition that happened. What we must understand is the Sangh Parivar, the RSS, the Hindu Mahasabha, did nothing to stop the partition. When Bapu declared that he was standing all alone, nobody was supporting him when he was opposing the partition of India. The pretending patriots today did not stand up with him and say, we will stand with you, we will stop this partition. Show me one instant. Even I have challenged the Sangh Parivar to show me one instant, one letter, one statement they made against the partition in support of Gandhi's objection to the partition. They wanted the partition because in the partition, like the Muslim League saw the opportunity to have a nation of their own, the RSS also saw that eventually we will use this partition to make our dream come true of a Hindu Rashtra a reality. Right from 1947, they had plans for this, and that is why they did not do anything to prevent the partition. They did not support Gandhi, who was screaming that the partition was wrong, and we could avoid it. Let them say anything they want to say today. They are masters at lying, and that's the only thing they can do. But the tragedy is that a large part of our citizens have started believing the lies that they tell. That is the tragedy of India. And that is what we must be warned about. Because their agenda is still going on. And if their agenda succeeds, this nation will not exist. In 1946, what happened in 1946 resulted in the partition of India. The hate that is prevalent in our society today will break India into such tiny fragments that it will be impossible to ever imagine that it was one nation. Because we are divided on community, We are divided on caste, we are divided on language, we are divided on regions, we are even divided on genders. Look at the discrimination that women still face in our society and how we have normalized that discrimination. Tell me one place where you can see us united, and don't tell me a India-Pakistan match. India-Pakistan cricket match divides us even further. There is not an instant or an instance where we are united as Indians. Even when we pretend on Independence Day and Republic Day to be patriotic Indians, we have our identity of our caste and our community on display. When are we truly Indian? We must be afraid of this divisiveness within us. We keep saying that the British ruled by the policy of divide and rule. We are even today being ruled by the policy of divide and rule, not because the politicians divide us, but because we are divided in ourselves.
ഗ്രന്ഥാലയം പ്രസിഡന്റ് VM ദാമോദരൻ അധ്യക്ഷത വഹിച്ചു. ഡോക്ടർ MP മത്തായി ആമുഖ പ്രഭാഷണം നടത്തി. ഡോക്ടർ ജേക്കബ് വടക്കാഞ്ചേരി, KV മുകേഷ് എന്നിവർ പ്രസംഗിച്ചു. CV വിനോദ് കുമാർ സ്വാഗതവും U രാജേഷ് നന്ദിയും പറഞ്ഞു. നവമീഡിയ, പയ്യന്നൂർ.
ഓറ റെസിഡൻസി, പയ്യന്നൂർ. വെൽ ഫർണിഷ്ഡ് AC, നോൺ AC റൂമുകൾ. കോവിഡ് മാനദണ്ഡങ്ങൾക്കനുസരിച്ച് സാനിറ്റൈസ് ചെയ്ത താമസ സൗകര്യം, മിതമായ നിരക്ക്, മികച്ച സേവനം, സ്വച്ഛമായ അന്തരീക്ഷം, വിശാലമായ കാർ പാർക്കിംഗ്. പയ്യന്നൂർ റെയിൽവേ സ്റ്റേഷനിലേക്കും ബസ് സ്റ്റേഷനിലേക്കുമുള്ള കുറഞ്ഞ ദൂരം. കൂടുതൽ വിവരങ്ങൾക്ക് ഓറ റെസിഡൻസി, സിറ്റി സെന്റർ, സെന്റ് മേരീസ് സ്കൂളിന് എതിർവശം, VKM ജംഗ്ഷൻ, പയ്യന്നൂർ. ഫോൺ 7510202989 04985202989. A feel home away from your home.